He's Craig Way. He's the Texas High School Football Hall of Famer. He talks to us every Wednesday here on Texas Football Today. Get involved in the conversation at hashtag TF Today. Craig, you mentioned Smithson Valley, and I want to kind of parlay that into a different question. The two results that after having about a week to marinate on it, the two results from last Friday night that stick out to me were Schertz Clemens over Smithson Valley and Canyon Lake over Bernie. Those are the two games that really kind of keep sticking in my head. Is that an instance in which you are more impressed by the team who won it, more worried about the team that lost it, or a little bit of both?
You realize you're mentioning two games that were separated by about 9 miles.
That's true.
When you think about it, because, Smithson Valley, I guess, they draw on Spring Branch, they draw on Bulverde, and until Canyon Lake, by the way, was built, they drew on Fisher and Canyon Lake
that's right.
In that area, and so did New Braunfels. But, it's hard to say only because of where we are at week 8. I would say this, because it happened when it happened, I would lean toward the latter. I would be a little more impressed with what the opponent did than whatever, dismayed, surprised, or dubious about the favored team losing. Because by the time you're getting to week 8, or in this case week 9 coming up this week, when you're getting to these last 3-4 weeks of the season, the teams that are really, really good, they're harder to beat. And the teams that do beat them when they do lose are pretty darn good themselves. It's rare that you see those teams that are really good just go to absolute sleep, or to borrow your phrase, and I kind of like this, the phrase you like to use, play with their food.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's rare that you see those things happen at such a level that they lose. And I'm more inclined to look at it from the other side and say, look at a team like Clemens, which was unbeaten. So they obviously weren't chopped liver and playing in that district. And, look at Canyon Lake. Good football team, but it was pretty easy for you and me and for a lot of other folks to be consumed with just how good Smithson Valley is and just how good Bernie is. And they are good football teams regardless of the outcome of that happen. And I think it's more about the teams that beat them than them stumbling along the way.
One last question for Craig Way, the High School Football Hall of Famer here on Texas Football Today. Get involved in the conversation, hashtag TF Today. Craig, this week the slate of high school games across the state, I think, has a lot of headliners. It's got San Angelo Central and Permian, a lot of people excited about that. DeSoto and Duncanville. I think Clemens and Judson can get in that mix. Another battle of unbeatens. I would lump a game like Longview and John Tyler in there. Navarro and Wimberley, Sweetwater Seminole, Cuero Sinton. It's a lot of headline games across the state. I want to know a game that you've got your eye on this week that maybe people aren't paying a ton of attention to that has you particularly intrigued.
It's. I was just thinking about this yesterday, Jeff, that this is an exception normally to my hard and fast, but a usual rule. By the time I get to week 8, I am less interested. Normally, I'm less interested in the headliner games and more interested in the intrigue games because of what it's going to happen, to upset the balance of power, what happens with division breakdown. And we've talked about all of that sort of stuff. This year might be the exception to that rule because the lineup you just laid out there is dazzling. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty easy to be bedazzled by DeSoto and newly minted top 10 in the AP poll Duncanville, or Judson and Clemens coming off that huge victory, and obviously Central and Permian. In these parks, there is a lot of talk about a couple of games that could change up things significantly. One is the aforementioned Hayes and Vista Ridge game, because it determines not only whoever wins that game is almost certainly going to be in the playoffs, but more is the point, what division is Westlake going in? Because if Hayes wins, Westlake's going D2. If Vista Ridge wins, Westlake's going Division I. And the rest are kind of afterthoughts from there, because Vista Ridge is closing with, how'd you like this, back-to-back, Lake Travis and Westlake. So, you figure they're probably going to drop those 2 games. But but none of that matters if they beat Hayes, because they're going to, in all probability, barring goofy tiebreakers, should Vandergrift lose to Hayes in week 10, which is possible, could happen. But Vandergrift would probably figure to be the favorite. So that's one of them. There's also some really goofy stuff developing in 19-5A, or as I like to call it, 9-team 5A, because there's 9 teams in there, that could affect whether Cedar Park and or Georgetown wind up going Division I or Division II. There are active, realistic, viable scenarios that could shove both Cedar Park and Georgetown into the Division II bracket when the logic seems to suggest that they'd be in Division I. And the math probably will set it up for Division I. So, but there's still things out there. Pflugerville, Connolly, Hutto is obviously headed for the postseason unless they had a complete collapse. Leander Rouse could be a big apple cart, a handful of dynamite, going into this. There's all kinds of things that could be a mess out of this deal. So that's why I say that those games are normally the ones that I'm examining closely, and they're examples like that, as you know, Tep, all across the state of Texas. But this year, I'm perfectly okay with being bedazzled this week.